Hi everyone. Today I'm going to show you how to attach the head of your Bobble Buddy when the head is constructed from the front to the back or the back to the front rather than from the top to the bottom. So I do have a tutorial on how to attach the head if it's constructed from the top to the bottom. You can just go around a round at the bottom of the head, but for some of these guys their heads are constructed a little differently, and so it's a little trickier to figure out how to attach the body. So this is for Bobble Buddies like the lamb, the llama, the cow, the horse, the pig. Those are all constructed with the magic circle in the front or in the back. So when you need to attach the head, you don't have a round to go around, you're going around actual rows. So I'm gonna do this tutorial today with the cow. So you can see here I have my head and my body, and I have already used some pins to start to attach my body. So I think pins are really very helpful in making sure that you have the placement correct of the body and the head, so I highly recommend using them. So to get started, I always position my head on the body and I use pins to center it at the front. So you want to make sure that the center of the face stays at the center of the body. So this, in my opinion, is the most important spot for your pins. So I've placed 4 pins across a row and kept it pretty even there. And I just picked a row that's towards the back of the head. You could move it forward if you want to. I wouldn't go much further back than this, or you're not going to have anywhere for your body to be sewn on the back. But I kind of wanted my head to pop forward a little bit, but you can play around with where you want it. So I've got the pins placed up front. I know my camera's a little bit close, but you can kind of see how it's centered there. So once I have those pins placed in the front, then I always like to start in the back. And so you're going to start on a row at the back, usually 2 or 3 rows from where your pins are at on the front. And then you're just going to sew in and out. And so rather than going around in for these guys, you're going to be going across a few rows. You can put pins all the way around the body and the head if you want to. I've done it enough times that I really only need them at the front to make sure that it stays centered. But if you wanted to, you could put them all the way around to have it exactly how you want. So as I come up around to my pins, I'm just going to start pulling them out as I place my stitches. At the front, for a few stitches, like 3 or 4 stitches, you really can just sew straight across that round to make sure that it stays even. Once you get on the body to where you think center should be, I always like to stop there and make sure that it is still actually centered on the face. Sometimes even with the pins, it moves around a little bit. So I always like to stop and make sure that I still have the body and the head centered how I want them. If it's not perfectly centered, then I recommend stopping and pulling it out and then trying again, because if you get all the way around, it's really difficult to fix if it's off center. So I always stop here once I've got a couple pins out. This looks like it's still pretty centered. You can usually tell from the arms. You should be in between the arms when you get to the center of the head. And then I'll just keep going across. Then as I get over to this other side, I'm going to start going around the rows to get to the back again. Make sure you don't loop around the arms. It's really easy for them to get in the way. But unless you want to sew them on or unless you want to sew them on after, I still think it's easiest to attach them before you sew the head on. All right, so now that I'm at the back, I'll just sew across these last few stitches. After you've gone around once, it's not a bad idea to go around the whole thing again. It helps make sure that the head is really secure. So you can just go in and out of the stitches all the way around again. I'm not going to do that in this tutorial, but I do like to go around a second time just to make sure that everything is on there nice and tightly. And then you can tie off and weave in your end. So I'm not gonna tie mine off at the moment because I'm gonna go back and go around. But once you're finished, you tie off and weave in the end, and then you can see you've got a nice secure attachment at the base of the head to the top of the body, and that should keep it on track there. So like I said, just make sure that it's centered how you like it, or where you want everything to be. I always stop at that halfway mark and make sure that it's looking good, and then keep going around. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. Hopefully this tutorial was helpful, but I'm always available to answer any questions.